Thank you very much, Steve, for the introduction. Many distinguished guests who are present, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Steve, for giving me the honour to speak tonight at an event which celebrates the very impressive work of Fountain House and Clubhouse International in the critical area of mental health. And I know that together they are touching the lives of more than 100,000 people across 32 countries, a tremendous achievement in an area of health which receives too little attention globally. And I guess hearing the testimony of Betty tonight makes it all feel worthwhile to back organisations and recognise the work of organisations like these. Actually, a quarter century ago, I was a young Minister of Health in my country, and one of the things I had to do was accelerate the move of people out of the old-style mental asylums and into community-based care and support. And of course, it's the work of organisations like these that we're honouring tonight which makes that move possible. And yes, they are in New Zealand as well, I discover tonight. So thank you. Steve, congratulations to you on transforming this Hilton Humanitarian Prize into one of the largest, most prestigious such prizes in the world. And you have also attracted an incredible panel of eminent jurors. I know there are many past recipients of the prize here tonight as well. Your efforts, like those of Clubhouse and Fountain House, and of so many other distinguished people in the room, inspire us all to keep the world's most vulnerable and marginalised people at the forefront of our work. We see the Hilton Humanitarian Prize as unique not only in size and prestige, but also in its focus on innovation and long-term impact. And it recognises contributions which go beyond the very important work of meeting the needs of individuals to advancing human development for all people. Among the jurors for this year's prize is Nobel laureate Amartya Sen, who with his colleague Mahbub ul-Haq was the pioneer of the human development paradigm which still drives and inspires the work of the UN Development Programme today. In the very first Human Development Report, which was issued in 1990, it began with a simple but powerful statement, and you heard it echoed in Betty's words tonight about the importance of people. It said, "People are the real wealth of a nation." And this notion of what development was really about moved us all far beyond measuring development just in terms of how much national income there was per capita. So at UNDP, we think people must be both the primary beneficiaries of and the primary drivers of development. And we know the Hilton Foundation is also very motivated to this end. Because it is a humanitarian prize, I wanted to speak in my comments tonight about links between humanitarian and development work and give some insights into this post-2015 global development debate the UN is facilitating, and then finish with some words on the important role of philanthropy in advancing this global development agenda. Our world, as we all know, is faced with many concurrent and complex emergencies, too many to list. They include the conflicts in Syria, Iraq, Ukraine, elsewhere, looming serious food shortages in Somalia and South Sudan, and the crisis of the current Ebola outbreak. Yes, bad news sells, but there is rather a lot of it at the moment. And addressing the human consequences of all these crises requires a lot of coordinated action, right across the spectrum from emergency relief, which saves lives, to early recovery and the steps back to ongoing development. And we need both humanitarian and development actors in responding to these very, very complex crises. But there's also a truth in saying that most of these crises are rooted in very deep development deficits. And let me take as an example the turbulence that we've seen in a number of states in the Arab states region over almost 4 years now. Going back to 2002, these human development reports of UNDP for the Arab states region identified very significant underlying development deficits, including in freedoms and governance, education, the availability of work, and the position of women and young people. And the 2009 report highlighted major challenges in human security in the region, including in its very high rates of unemployment of youth. In effect, trouble was predicted if these development deficits weren't addressed. Sad to say, our reports received far more attention from early 2011 than they ever had in the 9 years before. As the old saying goes, a stitch in time might have saved 9, had that stitch been able to be sewn. But there are many things that can be done in development which can help build more peaceful, inclusive, and cohesive and strong societies. And it's my hope that as member states negotiate this new development agenda, the post-2015 agenda, they will see the great importance of investing in this area of work. At its very best, a global development agenda can set priorities and mobilize big partnerships and resources and action around them. And the Millennium Development Goals since 2000 have done just that. I came up as the Prime Minister of New Zealand to the Millennium Summit in 2000. I never actually thought I'd end up with some responsibility for these Millennium Development Goals many years later. Perhaps I would have been more careful about what I'd signed. But I remember the Millennium, apart from the Y2 bug, as a time of tremendous hope and optimism. People thought, could we build a better century, better millennium than the one we've just had, which was pretty awful in many ways. And so the Millennium Development Goals set out with big ambitions to reduce poverty, expand the number of children in school, advance health status, tackle some specified diseases, promote gender equality and women's empowerment, look after the environment, and build these big partnerships for development. And actually, a lot has happened on many of these scores since 2000. And there's now some solid research evidence that shows in the areas targeted for health, for example, that the progress has been significantly greater than would have been forecast from the trends before the Millennium Development Goals were launched and started mobilising action and funding around these areas. But all good things come to an end, and these goals are running their course by the end of next year. And so the post-2015 agenda is about how to finish the unfinished business, because there is some on the MDGs, but also raise the bar on what is possible. And the signs are that this new Sustainable Development Goal agenda will be a pretty ambitious one. We have proposals that's come from a big working group of the UN General Assembly, and among its proposals, and music to UNDP's ears, is a goal which would promote peaceful and inclusive societies and do some practical things around that, and prioritise disaster risk reduction. These issues were never explicit in the Millennium Development Goals, but they are rather critical for preventing humanitarian crises. This new agenda, well, there's broad agreement that it will be a universal one, applying to all countries, acknowledging that development is not something which happens somewhere else to someone else. Developed countries actually have challenges too, as I well know from leading one for 9 years. In a globalised world, I used to say, we're all on a race to the future, and it's rather important not to be a loser in that race. The conversation about post-2015 has been a very broad one, very inclusive. It has really worked to reach out to people and groups who normally don't have a say, not just in global processes, but in any processes. Over the past 2 years, the UN Development System has supported around 88 national consultations, many big global thematic consultations. We've worked with the Hilton Foundation and others to bring philanthropists into the discussion about the new agenda. And there's been a wonderful My World online survey where people were asked to rank their priorities for the better world they'd like to see. About 5 million have voted in this now, and it may not be a surprise to you to hear that of their top priorities, education, health and jobs were right up there, but number 4 was honest and responsive governance. People aren't silly, are they? They want governments which will deliver, which can deliver. I think that was very, very interesting response. So, agreeing on an ambitious global agenda is one thing. Implementing it is another. And all hands are required on deck. The traditional models of development assistance won't do. We need very big partnerships. The philanthropic sector has so much to contribute, and let me say immediately, the contribution goes far beyond any consideration of funding, because we see philanthropists often picking up neglected issues and ensuring they get attention. And hasn't the attention given to mental health tonight been exactly an example of that? We also see the big foundations as so often innovative, flexible, prepared to take some risks on what might work. And many have the capacity to mobilise very broad coalitions for action too. All reasons why at UNDP we've been working to increase links with foundations and bringing to the relationship our own global presence. We have a footprint in 177 developing countries and territories. We are trusted partners of governments, and we lead the coordination of the UN development system within countries. Hilton Foundation has emerged as a very good partner for us, and its friendship and support have helped us to improve links between the foundations and the formal United Nations processes around post-2015. Earlier this year, there was a post-2015 platform for philanthropy established, with the goal of engaging more of the foundations in this big discussion among the UN's member states, and also aiming to support the foundation partners to show how their grant making is contributing so much to achieving the Millennium Development Goals and hopefully the Sustainable Development Goals of the future. Thanks to the leadership from the Hilton Foundation, we've now been joined by MasterCard, Ford Foundation, and the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors on this platform. And we hope that this project will show the value of major multilateral agencies like our own and the foundations working together. So, this new agenda will, as I say, require all hands to the world. It's no small thing to eradicate poverty, enable everybody to realise their dreams through education, have access to decent health care, and all the other things that goes with a development agenda. But I am convinced that we can realise the vision for post-2015 for a future which is anchored in more peace, more inclusion, more resilience to the shocks which are inevitable in life, and a future which reflects the commitment to action which is always promoted by this very prestigious Hilton Humanitarian Prize that we're here to witness the award of tonight. Thank you very much.